Wikipedia defines ska punk as a fusion music genre that combines ska and punk rock. Ska punk is really just punk with sped up two-tone guitars and maybe a horn or two. Anything more than that and it becomes ambiguous as to whether it's ska or ska punk. Also, unlike punk, ska punk is not nearly as politicized. Calls for a Marxist revolution and worker empowerment are generally not found within ska punk lyrics. Ska became somewhat commercially famous in the late 90s with bands like Sublime and Real Big Fish topping the charts. But to get there, we need to go back to a small warehouse in Berkeley, California. That small warehouse was 924 Gilman Street, which sits up there with CBGB's and the C Squat in the list of iconic punk locations. Operation Ivy formed in 1987 and was the band that really gave steam to the ska punk subgenre. The lyrical content focused mostly on social justice and inequality, much like the traditional punk rock. But they differed from the traditional punk rock formula by often making use of the two-tone guitar sound from earlier second-wave ska. Unlike ska, however, was their choice to avoid horns. By choosing not to use brass, they allowed for punk to become the dominant sound in the genre. Because of this, Operation Ivy's Energy album is one of the most genre-defining albums out there, and the album art is prolific within the punk community. A few years later, all the way in Detroit, another band would revamp Operation Ivy's sound and reintroduce ska punk to a wider audience. That band was the Suicide Machines. They formed in Detroit of all places in 1991. While they didn't experience much commercial success, they became rapidly popular within the underground music culture. Instead of focusing their lyrical content on the issues plaguing the world, their songs are about the day-to-day grind of life, with political calls to action taking a back seat. They experimented with horns off and on throughout their 15-year career, but weren't afraid to play without them. The Suicide Machines represent a split in ska punk, with some bands moving towards the ska sound and commercial success, while others moved away from the traditional ska and went underground.
This is called 500 Channels.
Choking Victim is one of those bands that shows the underground route. They sound nothing like the Specials or the Toasters, yet still utilize their two-tone guitar sound. Choking V formed in NYC's Alphabet City neighborhood, living and playing shows at C-Squat. They took the clean sound of ska punk and made it into a dirty, less refined sound. Out with the horns and the danceable two-tone beat, and in with the rough vocals and complex bass lines. Their only album, No Gods, No Masters, was rumored to be recorded in just one day, since they broke up at the end of that first day in the studio. The band created a subgenre of crack rock steady, named for the song of their same name.
Stop the insanity!
Leftover Crack is one of those crack rock steady bands. They're actually very similar to Choking Victim, and share several of the same members. They took the crack rock steady sound and made it even more crusty. Their vocals got rougher, their lyrics got more vulgar, and their music got coarser. Leftover Crack and Choking V are actually part of what is known as the Crack Rock Steady 7. This group, which is made up of the 7 different members that have made up Choking Victim, Leftover Crack, INDK, and Morning Glory, are known as the Crack Rock Steady 7 because they were the 7 people who essentially invented the sound. They are the heart and soul of the music and kept it alive in a world that has forgotten punk exists.
Even though ska hasn't been commercially popular since the 90s, Denver's ska punk scene is alive and well. Bands like the Rotten Blue Menace, Short Bus Rejects, the Repercussions, and the AOKs are constantly playing shows and keeping the scene alive. Rotten Blue, and the Denver scene in general, leans heavily towards the punk aspect of music. While Rotten Blue define themselves as ska punk, many of their songs stray away from the traditional ska punk structure, instead drawing influence from street punk, crust punk, crack rock steady, and even thrash metal at times. As a whole, ska punk is still going strong. Even though it's no longer the multi-million-dollar commercial industry it used to be, ska punk still lives on in the garages and kitchens of punks everywhere.